What is up, guys? My name is Keggernaut, but just call me Kegg. And this is going to be the Halls of Valor heroic run on the Vengeance Demon Hunter. I already had one for my Guardian Druid over at the Heroic Vault of Wardens, so I thought that I'd do one for the Vengeance Demon Hunter as well to showcase some of the abilities that I'm going to be using and also some of the gameplay, decisions that I'm going to do while I'm playing the game. This is going to be more of a podcasty kind of thing. I don't want to use the word podcast because that means that it's like a regular thing that people are going to check up on every now and then to make sure that there's another video about it if they're interested. And that's not something that I really want to do. But I do like to just sometimes go ahead and talk about tanking stuff pertaining to the Demon Hunter or the Druid, soon to be the Brewmaster once I finish leveling that up and gearing him out. That's just what I'd like to do. I'm interested in that type of video, and I think that maybe some of you guys are going to be interested in it. It helps to relay my thoughts during a dungeon run, and also helps relay my thoughts on, like what I said before, the certain tanks and the kind of community knowledge about them. Like, for instance, Vengeance Demon Hunter is an extremely new tank, so it's nice to facilitate discussion around it. So, certain stat priorities are good for what situations, what talents are good for what situations, and and the like. And it's going to be pretty cool, I think, for me to do this. It's very quick content, so if there's not if I already did a guide or something, or if I already did one of these major videos, and this could be something that you guys can look forward to, just sort of as an update, like how some channels have an update. I just posted a mini update about a week ago, I believe, just kind of keeping you guys in the loop with my channel and what I've been up to. And I think that these videos are a good way to go about that, instead of just dedicating a quick 2 minutes or whatever it is that I want to talk about. Instead of dedicating a quick whatever and do archaeology content that I was doing or world quests, I think maybe a dungeon run might be better. But I mean, that's really up to you guys. If you want longer videos like this, because I could do a 20-minute video in a dungeon and talk about whatever it is that I want to talk about, like what I'm going to be doing in this video. I could have that where it takes a long time to get to certain points, or it'll help do a lot more detail in certain topics. Or, like I mentioned before, I could just have smaller little bite-sized videos about certain things and certain updates, similar to kind of, I guess, how Asmongold does. He doesn't have a weekly or daily sort of video thing that he does. What he has is there's a topic that he wants to talk about that just came up in the WoW Reddit, WoW subreddit. Came up there. It's been buzzing around his guild or server chat or whatever it might be. Just recently, it was discovered, I believe, on Wowhead or wherever the original source was, that once you get your research, your artifact research notes up to level 5, then you have access to the hidden skins, the hidden artifact skins for, I think, about 4 classes. I think it was the Holy Paladin, the Prot Warrior, for sure, I know that, the Havoc Demon Hunter, and the last one, I believe, was the Fire Mage. So that's a little hot topic to talk about, and for instance, he's playing a Prot Warrior, so that's a nice video for him to make. He makes a quick video about it, and then he shows you how to go get that, and he actually did that. So maybe that could be something that I could do. I think the classes that I'm playing, all of the hidden artifact skins are already kind of generally known about where to go and where to get them and how to acquire them. So maybe it's not something I could really do, but I'm talking about in the more general sense, in the more sense of there's a topic, I'll talk about it. And what I could do is I could consolidate those topics into one long video, and put Dungeon Run over it, or I could just make smaller little bits, or you guys can suggest content oh, I heard about this. What do you think? Do you know what about it? And I could tell you my thoughts either in a comment directly, or a whole video if I feel like it deserves that much attention to it. So that's something that I could be doing. So I just kind of wanted to get that out of the way. I know that that's not really the content of this video. This is supposed to be the Vengeance Demon Hunter dungeon run, like talk about my thoughts and everything about what I'm doing while I'm tanking. And I know that I've already kind of skipped over a whole boss and a good load of trash, but I just wanted to make sure that I get that idea out there. So I think it's going to be really cool, and maybe you guys will be interested and let me know. So here I'm using the build that I like to use for the most part, except I've added Sigil of Change. You see that Sigil of Change, like, I like it, but because it takes 2 seconds for the sigils to activate when you're using Sigil of Chains, I'm not quite used to it yet. I really, really like quickened sigils, which makes it so it's only a 1 second activation time, and I think that works best for me, but I can very clearly see the uses of Sigil of Change. That's why I went for it for this exact run, I believe, because there's a lot of ads, especially these archer ads over on the other side of this cafeteria, I guess, or I mean dining room, probably. That's probably the right word. But the archers over there, they like to jump around a lot, and I kind of have it down how they jump. They usually jump like the direction they're facing. So obviously you're tanking them, they're looking at you, they're going to jump, I guess, through you. You know, that's kind of how I believe that they work, and in most cases it's pretty consistent with how that works, but sometimes things go wrong, so Sigil of Chains works to counter that. And like right now, I grab Sigil of Chains just to make sure that I interrupt that guy that was casting his Cleansing Flame, and also just to make everything else bundled up. And the Balance Druid coupled that with his Solar Beam so that nobody else can cast while they're inside of it, so that was a very good combo there. And this group here, this lady jumps, Valor Jar Aspirant. She jumps around, nothing too much to worry about. And that Blast of Light there, that's one of the boss abilities. You guys probably know that by now. But she also casts it here, and it hurts your party. But she doesn't actually move. Once she starts casting it, she won't turn around, so just step out of it. Pretty simple. On the boss, though, you cannot step out of it, so make sure that you move out of the way. Here, I like to usually actually grab both of these guys, but since it is a pug group and not a guild group, I'm not going to do that because I'm not entirely confident in the healer, although he has been doing a good job so far, but you know, still, things could happen. And especially with the Resto Druid, like, I've healed a bit as a Resto Druid on my Druid, obviously, and like, I'm not a healer at all. Like, I know I'm not a healer. I barely healed. I only did Mistweaver healing like for a couple weeks back in Throne of Thunder, and that was just because we were missing one and we had an extra tank. So I was like, all right, I'll do that for the meantime. Resto Druid healing is very hot based, like heal over time, and I don't know how they can really respond to mass amounts of damage like really quickly unless they pop a cooldown like Tranquility, you know, or their artifact ability to speed up the speed, I guess so, speed up how quickly the hots heal. I think it's like 2 times as fast once you activate it. And really, I have no idea how they do it. So I just wanted to make sure that he doesn't get overwhelmed, because I have pulled these guys before one time in a pug group, and the healer yelled at me because I didn't sign up for challenging content. I signed up just for the satchel, and I'm mythic geared and all this. I just wanted a relaxing experience. So I make sure not to do crazy pulls all the time in pug groups anymore, because a lot of people don't appreciate it, but a lot of people do. So just kind of do what you want. You're the tank, so you set the flow of the motion. This boss, like, I don't know how to go about like explaining these things. Like, I'm kind of, I guess, having second thoughts with these tanking videos, because I believe by now, like, it's been about a month into Legion, I'm pretty sure, and like everybody more or less should know how these dungeons work. Like, I know that there's some nuances that some people might not know, and like, for instance, in the Guardian video, I talked about them, but a lot of these bosses are pretty straightforward. This boss she gets powered up on whatever side that she's on, and then just stand in the bubble or dodge the other things. One little bit that I like to do here is for Shield of Light. Since she was about to die, I didn't do it, but usually what I'll do is I'll turn her around so that blast that knocks you back, I'll use that to actually get across the room and start dragging her over there so that she doesn't stay in the lightning area too long. She starts get powered up by the light instead of the lightning. But other than that, that boss is very easy for tanking. I've had a lot of experience with Mythics and Mythic Plus, and she's really not that tough. Speaking of Mythic Plus, actually, raids have come out, and Mythic Plus has come out. So what have you guys, how have you guys dealt with Mythic Plus? The highest I've gotten to right now, I believe, is Mythic Plus 4 on both my Druid and on my Demon Hunter. My Druid, I wasn't running it with our Holy Paladin, like what I usually run with. I was running with I believe it was a Resto Druid, or it's possibly a Resto Shaman. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm gonna put my money on the Resto Druid in my guild. It wasn't too bad. It honestly wasn't too bad. Mythic Plus, I have had a little bit tougher time with it on my Demon Hunter, just because of the nature of the class. They're very spiky, and the Crit Mastery build is very good. It's definitely good for dungeons. The one I would always recommend, but there is a little bit of a concern still with their survivability, but I think that's just a player problem. I think that myself, I know for a fact that I'm not the greatest Demon Hunter. I'm not the greatest tanking Demon Hunter. The class is extremely new. I'm pretty sure anybody who picks up this class, at launch, just is familiar with it. They're probably real good at it, but they're not really masters, unless they're just one of those WoW savants, I guess, that just knows how to play everything really quickly and can do anything he wants. Besides the people who played in beta or alpha, I highly doubt that anybody else, really just an average Joe Schmo, he's going to know how to play Vengeance Demon Hunter very well, because they are a very complicated class, especially because their survivability, I would say, is kind of like the assassins in Star Wars: The Old Republic. I used to play that game a little bit, and that tanking style was very cooldown based. You basically had to roll your cooldowns all the time, and your survivability was dependent on those cooldowns. And you could say that a little bit with the Demon Hunter, I believe. Demon Spikes, if you don't have Demon Spikes up, you're mostly going to get trucked. In easier content, since you are going to be higher geared, right now I'm 851, 851, I believe. So Heroic is not going to hurt me. And if you were paying attention in the first boss of this dungeon, I don't think I casted Demon Spikes. I think I maybe casted it once or twice. But really, besides that, I didn't do much else, because I know that in this easier content, my own healing with Soul Cleave is enough to counter a lot of this damage. And I'm definitely going to be using Demon Spikes on these wolves, though, because they hurt a lot, and I don't know why. Is it just average, not average, but is it just normal damage that they do, just upfront physical damage, or do they do a certain ability? I'm not sure, but they hit like a truck. And on Mythic Plus, these guys are definitely a problem. You might want to pull only one or two at a time, in my experience. So definitely make sure that you have that available. So Demon Spikes, as I was talking about, Demon Spikes is a very powerful cooldown, but without a lot of haste. And I know that I put haste at the bottom of my stat priority for dungeons. So you have to play a little bit more cautiously, I guess. The crits are very nice for your self-healing, and since you are tanking a dungeon, your actual tank uptime, I would say, is limited to short bursts. You're actually tanking a pack of adds for, let's say, a minute long, 30 seconds, whatever the case may be. While when you're taking a boss, it's obviously a lot longer. But most of the dungeon, 80% of all dungeons are all trash. It's all just getting up to the boss. And so those little intervals between each trash pack, you should have enough time for your Demon Spikes to get back up. You'll be able to use enough, if you played correctly, to last you throughout the entire trash pack. But still, things hurt. I mean, especially in Mythic plus 4, like the US, I believe, got hit with the affix called bolstering, which every time a non-boss enemy dies, they like do a battle cry, I guess, and they increase the health and the damage of all nearby non-boss enemies by 20%. So all those wolves that we pulled before, those 5 wolves, and I was saying that they were hurting, in Mythic plus 4, when one of them dies, the rest of them get the 20% health and damage buff. So the strategy for that, just for in general all the ads and trash packs, when you have that affix on, is to slowly lower all of them down at the same time and make sure that when you do want to actually kill one of them, you make sure all of them are going to die in a relatively quick time after that. Because once one falls, the rest of them are going to get even harder to kill because, well, they're going to kill you faster and they're going to get more health. So you want to make sure that all of them die at relatively the same time. And I guess another little quirk here that a lot of people might not know, or a lot of people just choose to ignore or whatever, this little speed buff here, this trail of light that's following me, after you kill the third boss in this dungeon, whether it be Fenrir like we did or Herja on the other side, you're going to get this speed buff. And especially in Mythic Plus, where time is really important, it's always better to go for Herja first, so going to the left when you get to the dining hall, because the time it takes to get out of the Fenrir area is a lot longer. And when you're mounted up, you move at 100%, you move at like double speed, basically. But this buff makes you move at 150% extra speed. So it's actually 50% faster than riding on top of a mount. So you want to go kill Herja first, because her time to walk back is a lot shorter than it is for Fenrir. So if you're trying to do Mythic Plus, and you're timed, obviously, it's going to be much quicker for you to go and get this speed buff to get out of the Fenrir area than it is to get out of the Herja area. That's just a little tidbit for you guys. And here, people pulled ads like always. Nobody ever gets through this clean. I don't know why. All pugs always mess up all the time. And it could have been our hunter. Maybe he has a pet. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it. He's marksman. Could have been our mage. Could be a frost mage, but I highly doubt if you're playing frost mage, you're playing wrong. And he's playing arcane, actually, so he doesn't have a pet. So I don't know who pulled. They're just bad player. I mean, I guess that's a little harsh to say, but I mean, that's what I think. Like, it's really easy to avoid that trash, yet people pull it all the time. I guess another thing here to note is the order in which I'm doing these kings. If you go from left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, assign them a number, the best way to go about these guys and to activate which ones first is going to be 1, 3, and then 2 and 4 at the same time. And that's going to severely reduce your tank damage, but your damage intake. So you fight the first guy and then the third guy, and then these two at the end is going to be the easiest time tanking. So in Mythic Plus, it's definitely worthy to note that. I know this is a heroic run, but it's still nice to practice and to let you guys know anyway, just like how I did with Herja. Reason being is because this guy, King Haldor, he has the guys who spawn these little ancestors, the honored ancestors, over to the left. They're just another ad to deal with, and especially when you have bolstering on with the heroic +4 affix that I was mentioning earlier. When you kill those little ancestors, they actually buff everybody else, because these kings here are not bosses. So you either want to keep tanking them around and kiting them so nobody attacks and kills the ancestors, or you just want to save them for last. And usually that's what you want to do anyway, because you're going to take less damage. So there's another thing, actually. I guess this dungeon has a lot more little things that people may not know about. It might not show up in this heroic boss pull here. Usually it does, but a lot of the times it doesn't. But either way, when he does his Ragnarok ability, when Skovald does his Ragnarok, where you have to activate the shield, right? And the whole party has to stand behind you. He's going to start shooting out his fire and all that, and you're going to activate the shield. But instead of activating it right away, like look what I'm going to do here. Ragnarok is going to come. You see it on DBM, and he's going to start casting it. Ragnarok moves to shield. I'm waiting, and right before I activate the shield. And the reason why I do that is because the actual channel of the shield is longer than the Ragnarok cast. And look, he did it right there. Okay, perfect example. So since the channel time of the shield is 12 seconds, and his Ragnarok ability is a 9-second channel, that means that you can squeeze a couple more seconds out at the end of it. And if you rewind here, you'll see that when he does Fellblaze Rush, that thing that he just did to me right now, when you have the shield up, since it's still the fire damage and fell or whatever the type of damage that it is, the shield negates it, just like it does his Ragnarok ability. So while you wait just those couple extra seconds for you to activate the shield, when he does his Fellblaze Rush and everybody's stacked up on top of each other, it's not going to do a lot of group damage. It's actually going to negate all of that damage. That's a very, very nice thing to know, especially in Mythic Plus. Like, I keep mentioning all these things for Mythic Plus, but that's the top content right now. So that's the thing. That's the time where it's going to matter the most. Or if your healer's having trouble in any difficulty, whether it be normal, heroic, Mythic Plus, that's still something that you can do as a tank to just help the group out. Because that is part of the role as a tank, is to make sure that the run goes smoothly. You do your best to help the group take less damage. So that little technique that I just told you guys about right now is very good. It helps to reduce damage and all that. And it just further shows off your skill as a player, I guess. Maybe not the rest of your group will understand. Maybe they just think that nobody took damage because it was very weak. But you know in the back of your mind, like, the group didn't take damage because I'm that good of a tank. I did my research. I did my homework. I know how to play this game. I know how to play this game correctly. So, Odin here, he's not that hard of a fight either. He's more of a problem for the group, not really for the tank. These guys here, the Stormforged Obliterators, just keep them interrupted. Very simple. As a Vengeance Team Hunter, it's very easy to do that. You have a ranged interrupt. If you guys didn't know that, your interrupt is ranged. It has a 20-yard range, I believe it is. So usually when you're on the outskirts of that first... Well, I'm a bad player. I just ran into that thing. But either way, when you're on the outskirts of that Tempest that he does, that really big AoE channel attack that he does, you in most cases are going to be able to reach that ad and interrupt him. But if you can't, and nobody else has a ranged interrupt, you don't have a ranged DPS or whatever, you could just drop a Sigil of Silence and you'll be all good. For this Angel phase here, you take so little damage that you could actually just focus mostly entirely on DPSing. You don't have to really put up demon spikes, because you take so little damage, you have so much health, and your healer does so much healing that you're mostly okay. But either way, everybody, that is the end of the video. I know I didn't talk a lot about the actual tanking stuff. I did mention a couple things pertaining to tanking in this dungeon. I'm a little sorry that I didn't do as much as I wanted to. But either way, thank you guys for watching, and keep an eye out for the in-depth video that I'm going to be putting out for the Vengeance Demon Hunter. It's going to be a very long video, but it's going to go over a bunch of stat priorities, bunch of talent builds, everything you want to know about the Vengeance Demon Hunter, I'm going to be putting in that video. So keep a lookout for that, and I'm also going to get some Mythic Plus dungeons soon on the channel for both of my tanks. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.